Half a day students, I am Governor Leon Guerrero. You all have been through a year of big changes. We've had to adapt and make big changes to keep our families and our island safe. But with change comes opportunity and a chance to try new things like PBS University. While Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and I will continue to do our part to keep our island safe, you students have a part to play as well. Your part is to keep learning and to keep up with your lessons. That's why I am happy to see you here ready to learn with PBS University. PBS University is a way to bring a continuous educational curriculum to you while you stay safe at home during this time. To help you keep up with your studies, we asked our friends at PBS Guam and the Guam Department of Education to put together this episode. Thank you for doing your part and have a great lesson.
Half a day, everybody. My name is Chris, here at the Department of Agricultural Plant Nursery, and I'm here to talk to you about home gardening. Before you start a home garden, you might want to consider doing some research before you start anything in order to make sure that you're a little bit more successful down the line. And a big part of that is looking at the layout of where you want to start your garden and just trying to figure out the parameters, your capability, the climatic conditions, the amount of sunlight that the space is receiving, and the types of plants that you want to grow there. Living conditions that everyone is enrolled in, and so some might have a plot of land at the back of their house that they want to start a garden in. Others might live in an apartment building or a condo, and they might want to utilize container gardening, or if they're growing indoors, they might want to start a hydroponic system in order to grow a few vegetables and plants. As far as outdoor growing is concerned, you're going to want to see where the sun is rising. So the sun rises on the east and sets in the west, and you're going to want to see the amount of sunlight and shade that hits these areas that you want to garden in. Some plants are vulnerable and they're not very heat tolerant, so you're going to want them in partial shade to full shade. Others really enjoy the sunshine, and so you're going to want to see if you get enough sunshine for these types of plants so that you succeed and that they actually give you something. You're going to want to see whether or not enough rain hits that area, if there's like an awning that blocks a lot of the rain, or if you want to utilize shade cloths or start your own shade house or greenhouse or whatnot. Another thing is the types of plants that are successful here on the islands. A lot of that involves asking your neighbors, asking your friends and family to see what they're growing in their gardens and what they find success with. You can go to the locally grown section in your supermarkets and see what the local farmers are producing, and then you can launch from there and decide exactly what you want to grow in your backyard garden. You're going to want to know the appropriate planting times for a lot of these crops if you're growing things outdoors. For example, watermelons, they do better during the dry season only because excess rainfall will water down the sweetness and taste, like the Brix levels, as they say, of watermelons. So you have to keep these things in mind before you start growing your crops, so that later on you'll have a successful harvest. And another thing that you're going to want to consider is the types of value-added products that you can create if you have extras. So if you grow a bunch of cucumbers, for example, in the back of your house, and you have integrated pest management practices that are really working for you, you have your compost programs going well, and with all these elements combined, you have a really nice cucumber harvest, and you've given it away to friends and family. You're going to want to know how to make value-added products or store these products properly so that you get the best out of your harvest. And so that's another option. Instead of just throwing these products back into the compost pile or having them waste away, is making these value-added products, which will give you a lot more benefits, in association with your harvest. So before you start growing tomatoes, you're going to want to find out whether or not the variety is classified as determinate or indeterminate. And so determinate means that it'll stop growing after a certain point, and then it'll start focusing all that energy that was meant for growth into production of fruit. And indeterminate varieties, they just keep growing as long as conditions are right. And the reason why I bring up indeterminate and determinate tomato varieties is because you're going to want to choose determinate varieties only because they're more appropriate for container gardening. They're more manageable, and they are usually shorter and more stout and more compact than indeterminate varieties. So a plant with those types of characteristics are more appropriate for container gardening or patios and such. Indeterminate varieties, they're usually more appropriate for raised gardens or gardens that are outdoors, where you have the space and the infrastructure to let them climb and let them roam around and reach their full potential as far as like height and width. So another plant I wanted to discuss was hot peppers. And so everyone on the island is familiar with hot peppers, and this is usually a go-to when people start home gardens or container gardening or whatnot. And the reason why they're so successful is because hot peppers are tolerant of full sun or shady conditions. So you'll usually get a successful harvest with hot peppers. And so this variety right here is Doni Sali. And basically it was named after a type of bird that used to be prevalent on island that was known to spread the seeds across the island. So another go-to plant that people usually consider when they start a container garden or they start gardening in general are citrus plants. And citrus is very popular on the island. There are a lot of dishes that people incorporate citrus into. This particular variety of citrus is Lemontina, and This is one type of citrus that's very unique in that it can tolerate really shady conditions, and the more sun it gets, the slower it grows. So if you have very shady conditions, then you might want to consider this type of citrus if you have shady conditions in your area. And all of these are available here at the Department of Agriculture Plant Nursery.
Buenas Day, Guahusi Roland Santos. I am with Farm to Table Guam. We are a nonprofit organization. We actually run an organic farm here on this lovely property. We focus on organic methods, and yeah, our organization just really supports the local agriculture industry. We really want to inspire more people to grow their own food, grow food as a source of income, and just following organic practices. That way we can actually help our earth as we are growing food and commodities for the island. We really want to reduce importing produce, and we just want to really provide the island with locally grown veggies. So let me take you around the farm and show you a little bit more about what we do and how we do things. Right now we do have some corn growing here. We are practicing the organic method, and we are consistently building our soil and trying to feed the nutrition that the soil does need to feed our plants. Cover cropping has many benefits to our soil. Let me show you an example here, and we are actually using nothing but mungo beans here to actually provide nutrition to our soil. As these little sprouts start growing, they will actually act as a cover to help suppress the weeds that are competing with our plants. But one thing about these mungo beans is they are actually nitrogen fixing. What that means is they are pulling nitrogen that's readily available in the air, and they are actually putting it into our soil that will be readily available for our plants. So not only is it helping us keep the weeds down, it's also providing so much nutrition and adding biodiversity to our soil and keeping the soil health healthy. We really want to just keep adding more biological and organic matter here. So once these mungo beans are actually grown enough to a certain height, we'll actually cut it down and we'll let it decompose here, which adds more organic matter to our soil. So pretty soon, a lot of the soil that we usually see as red, they will turn dark black. And that's the main goal. That is actually a good sign of soil health. So this is our cover crop that we are doing right now. So this is something that we typically do after we're done harvesting a certain plant. We had zucchini and tomatoes actually growing here last season, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put the nutrients that those plants actually absorbed, and I'm trying to put them back into our soil by cover cropping. This is one of the best and easiest ways to do it here in Guam. Mungo beans are readily available at our supermarket for a really cheap price, and it's really easy to actually grow and actually use as a cover crop. So this is one example of how we continue to rebuild our soil. So I'll show you more examples as we continue down. So one thing that we do here on at Farm to Table is we try to focus on leafy greens. We definitely want to encourage more diversity in our supermarkets that's coming from our local island, or that's coming from our island. We want to see more local produce rather than importing 90% of our food. We really want to start producing more of it. If we get it down to 85% imported, that is a big impact that we can attribute to. So right now over here we also grow kale. So we are trying to produce kale locally and put it in our supermarkets, and again to add more diversity to what we actually see at the market. I really do feel that a lot of our land is underutilized, and this is one way that we can bring it back. If we turn around over here, we could actually see a malunggay tree. Now growing up here on Guam, we've always seen malunggay, moringa, and I really think it's highly underutilized. I believe it is now considered a superfood. It's really high in antioxidants, and yeah, it's just really healthy to eat, and it grows naturally here on Guam. So malunggay, and us adding some kale here, this is one way that our farm is trying to contribute to bringing more produce to the island. And then here on the farm, we actually see all of these trees covering our farm. These trees act as a windbreak, so when we get really heavy storms or heavy wind, heavy times with wind, these actually help. So it breaks the, it slows the wind down, so that way it allows our plants to actually survive a little bit more if we have a storm. Not only does it act as windbreaks, but if you look closely, these are actually avocado trees. So even when our greens aren't producing and avocado season is upon us, we are still able to harvest the avocados and put out to market, and again still providing to our island rather than importing those Hass avocados that we always see. So again, we really want to focus on providing food to the island. Okay, like I said again before, our organization really tries to focus on leafy greens. So one of our focuses on lettuce production. So this is a good example of how we actually grow our lettuce. We do use shade structure to kind of ease the intensity of the sun. It also acts as, well, it's just a structure that protects from the UV rays for our lettuce. Lettuce is a very cold weather crop. So the fact that we're growing it here on our tropical island is a really big thing for us. We're really excited and really happy to grow lettuce here, but not only grow it ourselves, but to inspire more people to grow. I really want to show people that some of the produce that we see at the supermarkets can be grown here. Yeah, we could definitely, again, reinforce the fact that we can grow our own food and be self-sustaining as an island. I think that's really important for us to really understand. And again, we focus on microbiology and building our soil. Just like you saw before with the cover crops, we really try to maintain our soil and feed our soil organic matter and just really build it. we are actually currently doing companion planting. We are having some kale here, and if you look closely at this row of green, we are doing carrots. So we have kale, carrots, kale, and then we actually have parsley. So the reason why we are growing these plants together is the carrots actually like fungal bacteria in our soil, but the fungus doesn't actually like helping the kale out too much. So we grow the carrots here to actually produce the fungus that helps break down nutrients, and having the kale right next to it, they are benefiting from the nutrients that fungus that's living on the carrots to actually benefit the kale itself. So this is diversity at its finest. We are using two different plants that are going to be helping each other using symbiotic relationships with the soil. So companion planting is a very big thing that we do. We can definitely help feed our soil using different plants. We're actually feeding the soil with the plants. This is just a small example of biodiversity, and as we continue down to the farm, I'll show you more samples of companion planting that work really well. This sunflowers, this is another example of cover cropping. So the reason why sunflowers is a really good cover crop in my experience is they actually don't use a lot of nutrients from the soil to grow. But if you see the stalks of these guys or these girls, they are a lot of green organic matter. So when we actually harvest the flower and we harvest the seeds off of it to create a snack, we'll actually cut the sunflowers and let it decompose back into the ground. What that is, it's adding organic matter, it's adding browns, it's adding more life to our soil. Not to mention, when these sunflowers are growing, the roots will actually absorb some of the nutrients that the microbes are actually converting, and the plants will take up the nutrients. And when the plants take up the nutrients, they'll actually create sugars that help the plant grow. They don't only use the sugars, but the plant will actually send the sugars back down to the roots to feed the microbes, to allow the microbes to continue to make food for them. So life is connected in this manner, in this way. The microbes will feed the plant, the plant will feed the microbes. It's a constant cycle, and this is why nature just works in a beautiful way. Everything is connected in some form or fashion, and they all work together. And that is one of our goals, is really to try to find that perfect balance with nature working together. So that is something our main goal is to do. If you look on this side, we are actually growing zucchini here. But if you look between the zucchini plants, we actually have some bush beans growing. Like I said before, with the beans, they are nitrogen fixing. So they're pulling nitrogen again from the atmosphere and putting it down to our soil. One thing about these zucchini plants is they are heavy feeders on nitrogen. So these beans are actually consistently providing nutrients. So rather than us purchasing synthetic chemicals and dumping it on our land, we are actually using the plants to do that for us. I think that is one type of symbiotic relationship that is really important for our farmland and our land in general. Plants heal our land. A lot of people look at weeds and they think it's unsightly. A lot of people, they want to pull it out. But a lot of times these weeds are actually helping to build our soil. A lot of these plants, a lot of these weeds are creating sugars and feeding the microbes that's in our soil. And that's what we're really trying to do, is really build a relationship between both plants and have them work together to really increase productivity.
Bacteria in the soil fix the nitrogen. That means they combine it with oxygen or hydrogen into compounds that plants can make use of. Some nitrogen-fixing microbes have even developed a symbiotic relationship with certain plants, like peas and beans.
Hafa-Day students, I'm Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. For more than a year now, you all have continued to wash your hands and watch your distance from others, and you've done a really great job wearing your masks. We know your parents and guardians have helped you to make these changes to keep yourself and your community safe. As Governor Leon Guerrero said, we are happy you are here. We want you to continue to learn and sharpen your skills with the help of PBS University. This program is the result of a collaborative effort. We couldn't do it alone. I'd like to thank the teachers and support staff of the Guam Department of Education and PBS Guam for their work and their commitment to our students. I'd also like to thank you students for participating at home. To your parents, I'd like to thank you for taking an active role in your child's education. We are all eager to return to a time when all of us can share and study together in person. Until then, we hope you learned something new from this PBS University instruction.